I just had so much fun painting these watercolor fireworks. I used a wax stick and a straw to create all this really fun texture. So if you have a wax stick or a white crayon or even masking fluid and a straw, you can do this too. It is so easy. Let me show you how I did it. So I'm using this Paint Crush palette by Christy Rice because I immediately thought of this fluorescent yellow, and then I remembered I did have some other fluorescent paints. Fluorescent paints obviously would be pretty cool to use, but you don't have to. You can use any brighter paint colors. And then I'm just wetting my paper here, and of course we don't want too many puddles. It is a bit shinier because I was filming this last night, so it makes everything shinier when with the reflections. But then I'm just using my paintbrush and I'm just literally putting blobs of paint everywhere. So I mixed in some fluorescent yellow and red, and I'm just trying not to mix colors that are going to make too much muddiness next to each other. So here, like the green and the orange will definitely turn to mud if you mix them too much. So I'm just trying to like let them touch and do their thing, but not overly mix them. And then you can always like move your paper around to get different shapes and more of like an organic feel. Because when we put the masking fluid or the um, wax stick on top of this, obviously the shapes aren't really going to matter because it's not all going to show through, but little parts will. So you want to make sure there is a variety of colors next to each other. But if you do want each of your fireworks to be one single color underneath, then obviously just strategically plan for that. But yeah, I'm just mixing up my colors. I added a little bit of white to it just because honestly this was me just playing. So you don't really need to add the white. I'm just cleaning up the edges a bit because we don't really need them to be anything because we're going to go over that with a darker color. So yeah, I'm just adding in like the final colors that I just definitely know I want to be in my painting. So I've got some opera rose in there as well. And then I'm using my heat gun to dry it and also kind of blow the paint around. So, and this wasn't something I planned. I was like, oh, it moves it a little bit. So let's use that to our advantage and kind of spread it out and mix it up a bit. And as I'm doing that, it's drying and it's creating more fun texture. And I'm just going to do that until it's completely dry because you do not want to go over this while it's even slightly damp because then it will rip the paper. And then I'm like, hey, let's put some splatter because why not? I'm just splattering on there and then doing a little bit more opera rose here. I just had to grab my opera rose. It's my favorite color. And I'm making sure that's completely dry as well. And now for the fun part. So I'm using a wax resist stick. You can use a white crayon. You can use masking fluid. If you have it and you don't have the wax stick, you don't have to use the wax stick. I do have a tutorial that I'm also going to upload on here that I did last year where I used masking fluid. So, or drawing gum, some people may call it. So I've just always called it masking fluid. So it's also called drawing gum. And we're just going to draw on the shapes. And you can't really see them when you're doing this technique that well. You see, so I'm like moving the paper around to see where I've painted or drawn on the shapes and where I have some space. And I do want a lot of movement on here. I don't want it to just be one in the middle and then all that work goes to nothing. Because if you're just going to paint over it, I do want to take advantage of as much paint as I have on there. And I personally wanted sort of like rainbowy colored fireworks. But if you want, again, one color or two colors, then plan it that way. And then I just mixed up some paint over here. I made a dark color. I think this is like some Payne's gray, and I just mixed in some all different colors here just to make it like a really dark bluish color. You can use black. And I really kind of wanted this to be darker in the end, but again, I was just kind of playing. I didn't really plan this out. So I would have gone a little bit darker, but again, I do like the way it turned out. So I'm just going to do this here, and then I'm going to do another layer on top just to deepen it up a bit. And you can see how it's so cool. I got such a kick out of it. It's so much fun. But if you do scrub over it too hard, sometimes the wax will like move and it won't repel the water that well. So you see it dried a lot lighter than I wanted. And I don't want to put the heat gun on there too long because I didn't know if it was going to melt the wax at all, but I don't think it does. Now, I didn't draw in any little circles to create sparks, so I'm using my bleed proof white and I mixed a little bit of that fluorescent yellow in it, and I'm just splattering it on there. You can use your resist technique to create the sparks as well. You don't have to do any kind of overlay. And then I'm just flicking my brush to make little tiny splatters in the back to make some sparks and like cover up that page as much as I can and just play with the different techniques. You can even just stipple like I'm doing here. And then I used that bleed proof white and I mixed it with some of my watercolor just to kind of paint on where I wanted some extra fireworkage. You can also use gouache to do that. Now, of course, you don't have to add in any extra, but I kind of wish I put a little bit more underneath, so I'm just painting it on, no big deal. And it's fun. So I'm just going to do that with all different colors. I really wanted some more of that fluorescent yellow in there. And I kind of wanted a little bit more blue, so my next one I'll probably do some more blue in there. But I love the way it's turning out. I'm using a thinner brush to pull some sparks out as well. And then I thought I was done here, so I took the tape off and I wrote the date on it. So that's something I want to start doing a little bit more, journaling a bit more and writing dates on things. But yeah, then as I was doing this, I remembered the splatter technique, which you can find in my 31 days of watercolor that I just put up here from last year. You can use a straw to blow splatter around, and it's really cool if you can get it from above. Sometimes it makes the perfect firework shape. I didn't have that much luck with this painting, but it's really cool and it's just so much fun to experiment with. So you just want to mix up some really watery droplets here and splatter it on or dot it on, and then use a straw. I have a glass straw here. Very careful with a glass straw, of course, and you just blow. So I'm blowing from the sides and going up and then from the top. And then I needed to fill this little spot in. So I'm going to blow it from the top. But this one didn't go as planned, but I just fixed it by blowing it from the side like this. And look how cool that is. It's just so much fun. This is just really one of those types of paintings that are just like, I don't know, they just make me giddy because all the little colors pop out and you don't know what you're going to get. And I love this because you can use this technique for any subject. It obviously doesn't have to just be for fireworks. So I hope you give this technique a try and have a fun and safe holiday.